Hi YouTube. I want to introduce to you this homemade capo that I came up with. Uh, it's very portable. Actually, it's right on my keychain. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, where's the capo? I don't see the capo. Well, actually, let me just get rid of the keys. The capo is right here. I know you're still thinking that still doesn't look like a capo. I will show you in a minute. So I just gotta kind of loosen the thread part of the capo. There it is. And we have the carabiner. So I will now demonstrate how to use it. Here's my guitar. So you can see that the thread part is a loop. The loop actually can be tightened by pulling this end of the thread. So I click the loop into the carabiner. I put the carabiner on the guitar. Now I'm going to start on the thin end of the guitar's neck so it's a little easier to work with. Now I'm going to click. I loop this thread around the neck, and then I click that into the carabiner again. There. Now everything's attached. Now I'm just gonna tighten that loop by pulling that thread. Okay. That should do it. Just gonna slide it to whatever fret that I would like, and voila, it's holding on strong. Okay, so the point is not my playing. The point is that I have now a working capo that is extremely lightweight, extremely cheap, and extremely portable. I carry this carabiner as part of my keychain anyway, so the only thing I need to carry that's extra is just this piece of string, which is, it costs nothing basically, and it's very light. And in the following, I will show you how to make it. By the way, I also built in this emergency release, because sometimes that knot can get very, very tight. Sometimes it'll be difficult to undo that knot. Right now, I should be able to just slide it, there we go, and loosen the capo again. But sometimes it gets so tight that it gets all kind of tangled up there. That's hard to untie or hard to loosen. So when that happens, all you need to do is loosen this end of the capo or of the string and pull it all the way out, and bam. Now this whole knot is taken apart, and I can just undo the capo very easily. Okay, so in this part of the video, I will show you how to make that contracting loop for the capo. You notice I changed my shirt because I was wearing a white shirt, and it's kind of hard for you to see the white string with a white shirt in the background. So I'm wearing something darker now. Alright, so I'm just using a piece of regular old cotton string, as you can see. I tied the ends so they won't fray. In your case, if you're using some kind of plastic string, you can also burn the ends or tie the ends so they won't fray. Okay, so before we start, we're gonna use this one knot very much in this design. And I don't know what the official name is, but I'm just gonna call it the sliding loop knot. So it looks like this. Okay, so watch me. I make a loop. Alright, it's just a loop, it's not a knot yet. I make a loop. Okay, I take one end of the string. I make a second loop, kind of, and I put it through the first loop. Alright, put it through. And now I pull everything tight together, like so. Okay, so now I have a sliding loop. This loop is basically the second loop that we did earlier. The first loop has now been tightened to form this knot. So the cool thing about the sliding loop knot is that you can slide it. You can expand or contract the rings by sliding. Now notice that of the two ends of the string, only one end is sliding. And again, I'm going to use some made-up terminology to describe this. I'm going to call the end that slides the sliding end. Go figure. And the other end, which is tight with the knot, it doesn't slide, I'm going to call that the anchored end. Okay? So the sliding end and the anchored end for the sliding loop knot. Another cool thing about the sliding loop knot is that when you pull it all the way out, it actually undoes itself. Because it's not a real dead knot. It's, I don't know what you call it, but it can undo itself when you pull it. It's kind of like how you would tie your shoes. You would put these loops at the end, right? So when you have to undo your shoelaces, you don't have to, you know, do crazy things to untie it. You simply pull and it undoes itself. Okay, so it's a similar concept here. Alright, and we're also going to use, optionally, an extension of the sliding loop knot. So after I formed the first loop, the first sliding loop, take the sliding end, not the anchored end, the sliding end, and put a loop through the first loop again. So like this. And go ahead and tighten the first loop. Okay. Now we have, well, a new loop. Now go ahead and repeat that. Take the sliding end, which is right here, and make a loop. Alright. Put that new loop into the old loop. And tighten the old loop. You can do this over and over. And now you end up with a braided chain. But because the end is sliding, we know that it undoes itself if you tug on it. We don't want that to happen all the time. So at the end, when you're done with your braided chain, you can put the end of the string, not a loop, but the end of the string into that last loop and just kind of gently tug it kind of somewhat taut. So you end up with this braided chain. Okay. And when you want to undo the whole chain, simply undo that last step, basically pull the end of the string out, and because the rest of the chain is made up of a series of sliding loop knots, it will undo itself all the way out because it's just sliding loop after sliding loop, and we know that sliding loops can undo themselves when you tug on them. Okay, so that's the basics that we need to know to make this capo. Now we can really get to it. Okay, so in order to make the loop for the capo, take your string. For convenience sake, we're going to call the two ends, we're going to assign them names. I'm going to call this one end A, alright, end A, and this end B, alright? So we take end A. We measure out, it depends, but let's just call it, say, somewhere between 10 and 12 inches, you know, which is like, 30 centimeters, maybe a little less from end A, alright? And mark that point with your fingers. At that point, make a little sliding loop knot. Don't pull it tight yet, just make the knot, like so. And make sure that when you make the knot, you have the sliding end. That end A is the sliding end for this knot, okay? End A is the end where we measured out about 10 inches for. Make sure that's the sliding end. Okay, and before you pull your knot tight, I'm going to have you take your end B and, okay, look at your knot. See where end B comes out of the knot from. In this case, it's right here, okay? I'm going to have you trace your end B back, okay, back along the same path, and just thread it through that last part of the knot. along the same path that it came out from, okay? So now this part of the knot becomes kind of a sliding loop of itself. If you pull this all the way out, it will undo itself. But we're not doing that just yet. Okay? So we'll call that, this is the first loop we made, right? We're going to call this loop the gripper loop. Okay? This is the part that will grip. So it being the gripper loop, now go ahead and pull your whole knot together tight by tucking on the anchoring end of both sliding loops. Okay, now the first loop that we made, the gripper loop, is going to be like the name, the gripper. So go ahead and take your end A now, put it through the gripper loop, and contract the gripper loop until it grabs onto end A very tightly. And you want to make this pretty tight because the strength of the capo will depend on how tight this loop is. That's the loop that will be holding the tension of the string. Okay, now the second loop. The second loop is actually just for the emergency release. I saw you the emergency release earlier. For the sake of distinction, I'm going to do a little braided chain on the emergency release. You really only need, I don't know, maybe three links in the chain. My string is too long, so I'm going to end up with this dangling long end. But anyways, you just need a couple links in. I'll put in one more. Why not? Okay, so now I have a braided chain. This braided chain marks my emergency release end. Now don't forget, at the end of the chain, you want to put the end of the string back through the chain one more time so the chain doesn't undo itself when you accidentally pull on it. And just go ahead and gently contract that last loop of the chain so the whole thing is somewhat taut. Okay, I hope that was clear. So, okay, let me pull back a little bit. So now this chain is the emergency release end, right? And this big loop, we're going to call that the main loop. The main loop was formed by that 10-inch segment that we measured out, right? That 10-inch segment is grabbed by the gripper loop, to form this this main loop. So, in other words, the perimeter of the main loop should match that measurement earlier, about 10 inches. Okay? And make sure that the gripper is pretty tight for this. Okay, so that's it. The capo is done, actually. Pretty easy, huh? So go ahead and put your main loop into your carabiner. Put it on the lower end. Okay, the opening is on the top. You want to put your loop on the bottom. Take your guitar. By the way, you want to wrap your... I'm using the straight back edge of the carabiner to press against the strings, but make sure you have some kind of softer or compliant layer there. In this case, I'm using paper. Okay, it's kind of a prototype. It's kind of a little tacky. But anyways, I'm using paper. It works well. Alternatively, you can use rubber if you can find that. You can slide a piece of rubber tubing onto here, so you don't have hard metal pressing down against your strings and your fretboard. That's not very good for the guitar. Okay, anyways, take your carabiner, press it against your fretboard. Now it's easier if you start on kind of the thinner end of the neck, because when you slide onto the thicker end of the neck, the capo remains tight, right? That makes sense, right? Because it gets tighter and tighter as you slide down to thicker parts of the neck. So I'm going to start on the first fret. Take your main loop, okay? The main loop is hooked onto the carabiner. Take the rest of the main loop, loop it around the neck, and click the loop into the carabiner again. Alright, now everything is attached. So we flip it over. Remember that little end A that is now being gripped by the gripper loop? Take your end A and pull it. Keep pulling it, and adjust if you have to. Keep pulling it until it holds quite a bit of tension. Alright? Like so. Let's check it. Okay, not too bad, right? Just by a simple loop, it's actually holding the strings down pretty well. There's no buzzing, there's no muted sounds. And the carabiner that I have here is the shape kind of works out nicely because it's thinner this way and it's a little thicker this way, if that makes sense. So if I need a little bit extra tension, I can actually turn the carabiner like this. It's a little tight, which is good. When I turn it that way, it actually engages the thicker part of the carabiner and actually presses down a little more, gives me a little extra tension. So it sounds pretty good, right? I'm pretty impressed myself. Anyways, just in case it comes loose, you can always tie a little knot here so end A doesn't slide back out. But for the most part, the knot itself does a pretty good job already. By the way, the gripper loop right now that I'm using right now is just a simple sliding loop knot. There are other knots that you can use that will grip even tighter. But I found that to be unnecessary. I found that the sliding loop knot works just fine as a gripper loop. Okay? And again, let me demonstrate the emergency relief. In normal circumstances, you should be able to just kind of undo the tightening and the cable should come loose. But just in case, which it happens, if the knot is so tight that it's not coming apart nicely, you'll take your emergency release end, which is this braided chain, okay, undo that last link by taking the end out and pull it all the way out. Voila! When you pull that end out, the whole loop or the whole knot should come loose. And I just end up with a clean piece of string again, and you can go ahead and remake your capo. So I hope that was helpful. I look forward to having this capo with me all the time because, like I said, I use the carabiner as my keychain. Now I just need to carry this piece of string somewhere on the keychain, and I have my capo with me all the time. I just came up with this last night and I'm excited to share with you. Let me know what you think, and let me know how you deal with the capo conundrum. Like when you're caught without a capo, what do you do? How do you improvise? Or do you have a capo that is very compact that you carry with you? What works for you? And maybe some comments on how I can improve this design. Please leave it in the comment section. Now, I don't promise to respond to the comments right away or at all. I do apologize. I'm not very good at responding to comments just because I don't check them very often, but I will appreciate your comments. And that's it. I hope you found the video helpful, and I hope you can share your solutions to the problem as well. Until next time, bye-bye.